There's a lot of Republicans, including yours truly, advocating for the SAVE Act. The Republicans in the House of Representatives really trying to ratchet up election integrity here in America. So we need to get it passed through the Senate. Of course, you know, the Senate, it is basically you have a situation where the Democrats rule over in the Senate, even though they don't have the majority. We don't have enough to get these kinds of bills passed. We're going to talk to Hans von Spakovsky about that and a number of other things going on here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just a few other headlines very quickly. Donald Trump heading off to Davos. He's going to give a big speech to the World Economic Forum. Everybody's talking about Donald Trump and what he's going to do with Greenland. You have all of these European leaders, and, you know, they're trying to flex. The European leaders are trying to flex, and Donald Trump is saying, listen, one way or another, this is going to happen. So we'll continue to monitor all of that. I did a lot on Greenland yesterday. Don't really feel the need to do much on it today. Looking forward to seeing what the president has to say tomorrow. And so that is something that we'll obviously be covering here on Super Talk 99.7. You know, you have a lot of people on the left and a lot of, you know, the professional prognosticators out there, and they're all saying that the midterm elections, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad. Well, I don't know. You might not want to write off those midterms so quick for a number of different reasons. You know, I played audio yesterday from James Carville where he is saying that it is going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans in the House of Representatives. Also, James Carville saying that the Senate will go by way of a Democrat majority as well after the midterm elections. This is, by the way, the same James Carville who predicted a president, Kamala Harris. But heading into the midterms, there's news this morning that President Trump has endorsed the primary opponent of Republican Senator Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, again, Senator. He says that Donald Trump says that a congresswoman by the name of Julia Letlow is a total winner and a wonderful person. Here's what he said. Now, this is important because I've always said that Donald Trump is incredibly popular within the Republican Party, and I believe that to be the case. He says, I'm hearing that Julia is considering launching her campaign for the United States Senate in Louisiana, a place I love and won big 6 times, the president has posted on Truth Social. So Cassidy, this current senator, he has been against Donald Trump for quite some time. Cassidy has had some hesitations about RFK, vaccines, the MAHA movement, generally speaking. He is a trained gastroenterologist. Cassidy, by the way, just to let you know the lengths that he has gone through for his anti-Trumpedness. Cassidy also called for Donald Trump to drop out of the race after the Mar-a-Lago indictments. He also voted to convict Donald Trump during that second impeachment after January 6th. So bottom line is this guy, Bill Cassidy, senator out of Louisiana, he has not been a fan or a supporter of Donald Trump at all since Donald Trump has been in office. And so the point being that CNN decided to do a breakdown of what happens when you go against Donald Trump, when you are like a Bill Cassidy and time again, you go against Donald Trump. Now, the reason why I'm focusing on this is because you have a lot of people that are, basically doom predicting the Republicans in the midterms. My point in this segment is to prove to you that Donald Trump is still, regardless of all of these folks on the left saying that Trump is losing Republican support, he's not losing Republican support. And I think the crazier that the Democrats continue to act, I think the better the Democrats are going to look. So Harry Enton over at CNN does this breakdown of what happens when you go against Donald Trump and what happens when Donald Trump supports somebody running against you in a primary. Listen to this.
It's a huge deal because President Trump is the kingmaker in Republican primaries. That's why it's such a big deal. Take a look here. Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. This is congressional and gubernatorial. In 2020, it was 98%. In 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. President Trump has the magic touch when it comes to endorsing in Republican primaries. And when he doesn't endorse you, you go, to quote the great movie Good Burger, into the grinder.
So just looking at this, 2020, 98% of those that Donald Trump endorsed won their GOP primary. Fell a little in 2022 at 95%, back up now to 96% here in 2024. 96% of those congressional and gubernatorial races where Donald Trump gave his endorsement, that person won. So, yeah, I understand why it is that this senator out of Louisiana, Bill Cassidy, is probably fretting right about now. We've got a lot more on this and Donald Trump's popularity and support within the Republican Party. So talking about Donald Trump, I'm going to ask, I've got Matthew Hurtt coming up at 7:35. Do you know, by the way, where Matthew Hurtt is? Matthew Hurtt is in God's country. Matthew Hurtt is in Santa Barbara, California. He is there with some Republican meetings, I guess, RNC meetings, whatever it is. But there was a time in my life when I wanted to retire to Santa Barbara. So looking forward to talking to him. What I'm going to ask him, though, has he ever seen someone so powerful within the Republican Party as Donald Trump is right now? In this Harry Enton piece on CNN, they also brought up those who voted to convict Donald Trump. What happens to them within the Republican Party?
So Cassidy was one of the Republican senators who voted to convict President Trump in his second impeachment trial. How have those Republican senators done?
When you voted to convict President Trump in that second impeachment trial, how'd you do for re-election? Not so hot to trot, because let's take a look here. Okay, GOP senators who voted to convict Trump won their next election. Just 1 out of 5. That one is Lisa Murkowski in the great state of Alaska, which of course has that top 4 primary situation going on there. So very, very different than the traditional primary structure that is throughout the rest of the United States. The bottom line is this: the vast majority of Republicans who voted to convict Trump, who had a re-election, either lost or actually they didn't even run. They retired, they resigned in the case of Ben Sasse, or there are 2 up for re-election this year, Bill Cassidy and Susan Collins up in Maine. But the bottom line is this: if you voted to convict Trump so far, your chances of winning re-election have been quite small. And Bill Cassidy, of course, just got a major impediment to his road to re-election if Letlow decides to run.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. We see all of these polls that show Donald Trump is unpopular. Well, he's huge in the Republican Party, and that is important because if we can get out the vote in the Republican Party for the midterms, we should be able to keep the House. We should be able to keep the Senate. Ultimately, we'll have to see what happens. And I know what Matthew Hurtt's going to say. What Matthew Hurtt is going to say is Donald Trump has been in for a year. I mean, it's a year today. And I think that the president has had a great year. I think we got another 3 years to go. All that progress will stop if the Democrats end up getting the House of Representatives. Lord help us if they also end up getting the Senate. But here's the thing, is that the man has accomplished a lot. And for the midterm elections, when you start looking at who's going to run and what's at stake, it is critically important that we do. And I think that, those that say we need to put Donald Trump on the campaign trail for folks up for re-election in the midterm elections and people that are pro-Trump in the midterm elections, we do need to get the president on the campaign trail. Susie Wiles has said that she will get the president on the campaign trail. I think the president more than likely is looking forward to that as well.
It largely has to do with how much Republicans still support Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, look, Donald Trump was popular in 2016. He was really popular in 2018, really popular in 2020, popular in 2022, popular in 2024. And now we come to 2026.
Among Republicans.
Among Republicans, exactly right. And he is still quite popular amongst Republicans at this point. Look, overall in July, it was 89%. That was 6 months ago. Today, it's basically the same at 88%. How about strongly approve? Those who don't just like Donald Trump, but love him, love him, love him. In July, it was 61%. It's the same 61% now, and that is why the GOP voters, when Donald Trump says something, they say, how quickly can we get to Donald Trump's position?
And if you want to see the impact that this had, just this one statement from President Trump over the weekend, what did it do in the betting markets to Bill Cassidy's chances of being elected?
Yeah, remember, Donald Trump supported the opposition of Bill Cassidy in the primary.
You look at the prediction markets, take a look here. Chance to be the 2026 GOP nominee for the Louisiana Senate race. Bill Cassidy at just an 18% chance at this point, and this lines up very much with what we've seen historically speaking. That is, when Donald Trump goes against you in a Republican primary, your chances fall through the floor.
All right, there you go. I just, I'm so tired of people who have been, doom predicting the midterm elections. Listen, there's a possibility that we may end up not keeping the House of Representatives. I have told you a bazillion times the consequences if we don't keep the House of Representatives. They're looking to impeach. They're looking to arrest. They are looking to do whatever they can to stop the Trump administration. Obviously not real shocking. It is what the Democrats do. But also, did you see, because that piece with Harry Enton was all about how much support Donald Trump has within the Republican Party. Now there is a new Wall Street Journal poll out that talks about how the American people feel about the Republicans versus the Democrats in Congress. This is Brett Baer.
You look at the latest Wall Street Journal poll. Who's best to handle? Immigration, Republicans in Congress, 44, Democrats, 33. Economy, 38-32. Tariffs, 36-34. I mean, it's one poll, but it shows you that maybe it's not moving as much as people think it is.
No, and situations like this with Don Lemon and the church are not helpful. Look, I don't believe that faith and politics are mutually exclusive. The people who led the civil rights movement were church leaders. But this is not the civil rights movement. And this is harkening back to 2020, where we saw people from outside of a community engage in civil unrest and leave. Don Lemon doesn't live in Minnesota. He is not going to help that community heal and get put back together. And people are watching.
Yeah, that is a woman named Yemisi Egbawol. I'm sure I got that right. She is a former Biden press office advisor. So if you got lost in the numbers, Americans on 4 major issues trust Donald Trump, I should say trust the Republicans in Congress than the Democrats. You've got foreign policy, 38% trust Republicans, just 33% trust Democrats. Immigration, clearly Americans trust Republicans at 44%. Democrats only get 33%. The economy, Republicans at 38%. Democrats at 32%. And tariffs, you've got Republicans, 36% of the American people believe that Donald Trump and the Republicans understand what is going on with these tariffs versus the Democrats, who only garnered 34% of the vote. In other words, yeah, you know what? We got a long way to go, and we got a lot of headwinds, and things are looking really good with the economy. So we'll have to ultimately see where the American people stand in 10 months or so, 10 or 11 months or so from now. And I cannot wait to see how the whole thing turns out. So I made Matthew Hurtt a 90-year-old man joke when I said California, the land of fruits and nuts. And people started making fun of me because I keep making these silly jokes.
He has something better.
Oh, does Matthew Hurtt have a better joke? All right, Matthew, go ahead. What's your joke?
It's not a joke, Dan, but I'm coming to you live from a Chase Bank parking lot in Santa Barbara, California, where I am charging an electric vehicle for the first time, and this is a nightmare. How you doing? It's 5:35 on the left coast.
Wow. So it's 5:35 in the morning. Starbucks isn't even open, and you're trying to figure out how to charge an electric vehicle.
Yeah, well, and the crazy thing is there's some unsavory-looking folks. And now, Santa Barbara is a nice community, but I flew into LAX yesterday for the Republican National Committee meeting, which starts tomorrow. here in Santa Barbara. And I get to the rental car place, and the guy says, "Here's what we got for you. We got an electric vehicle." And I was praying and hoping that I could get all the way about an hour and a half out of LAX to Santa Barbara before the car just started rolling. And now I'm up early with you because I never miss a conversation with you, Dan. And I'm sitting here in the parking lot. So this is exciting stuff.
All right. So a couple of things real quick. So now that you are learning how to use an electric vehicle, I think if you're going to go down the road of most progressives, you'll be dyeing your hair blue eventually, and you won't even want ice in your sodas, let alone in your city.
It's very European, Dan.
All right. Very good. Speaking of which, all right, I got a lot of places I want to go. So first of all, Donald Trump is heading to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Of course, we all know what's going on with Greenland. You've got them going back and forth on threats of tariffs and all these things that are happening with European leaders threatening Donald Trump. Trump is threatening them. He's also talking about utilizing the military. Where do you think this whole thing is going to end up? Are we going to get Greenland or not?
I'm a little so Greenland has agreed to do pretty much whatever to allow the United States to do pretty much whatever it wants to do in Greenland to protect the United States from Russian incursion into the Western Hemisphere, possibly even China. There was a Wall Street Journal poll over the weekend that seems to indicate Americans are a little concerned about this. We have historically, the United States during Manifest Destiny, purchased large swaths of even as far out as California and up in Alaska. But I think there's an undercurrent of concern among voters, particularly headed into Davos and around this Greenland conversation that is causing some consternation, I think, for Republicans, and that's why you're seeing, conversations on the Senate floor and other folks express a little bit of concern about this. Obviously, the World Economic Forum is a globalist platform, and the Trump administration has been America first. I think this Greenland question is going to be a big topic of discussion there.
What are the concerns? Like, I can make arguments on both sides, like with Greenland. I think it'd be great to have Greenland sort of in our arsenal, if you will. I understand the resources. I understand that you're right. I mean, Greenland, I don't think they've ever said that we can't do anything. We've got that big base there, 6,000 people, radar technology, all that. So I think the president, though, he understands that Russia and China, who haven't made moves on Greenland yet, but he's trying to be proactive. So when you speak to, U.S. grabbing Greenland people in the Republican Party, what's their biggest concerns?
I just think what we're seeing in the crosstabs in the polls is that many Americans think that President Trump isn't focused on domestic issues. I think a successful trade deal, a successful negotiation that includes Greenland, looks like rare earth minerals and other resources and increased cooperation. There are 57,000 people in Greenland. Almost all of them are socialist. It's like California for the North Atlantic. And I'm a little concerned that taking possession in the sense that we did Hawaii or Alaska or the U.S. Virgin Islands is just a little bit different for most people. And many voters, and I've said this dozens of times here, Dan, many voters when they think about who they're going to vote for, they think about which party cares about them when it comes to making the mortgage and saving for retirement and providing for their children. And for a lot of independents, many of whom are going to have to turn out for Republicans in these midterms, they just think the foreign policy is a distraction. I think it's very easy to make the case that Venezuela, boom, in and out, we got Maduro, he's going to stand trial in New York. Iran, I think you can make a case because it's a significant humanitarian issue. I just don't know what the upside to Greenland is, given that they've offered us so much already.
And polling drives me nuts, and I know nobody cares about polling, but I actually find a lot of polling interesting. It is a snapshot in time. So there was a Harry Enton, I think yesterday, CNN, a big poll about how the Republican Party basically still very much follows Donald Trump when he is making endorsements for the primaries, right? We have the midterm elections. There's going to be primary elections within the Republican Party. And still, we have a lot of people that look to Donald Trump to see who he is going to endorse in a primary. That tells me that, the president is still very influential, obviously, in the Republican Party. But then I see another poll on CNN, same guy, Harry Enton. It just happened a few minutes ago, where it doesn't look like there's a lot of excitement for Republicans to come out and vote in the midterm elections. And, then there was another part of that poll that showed that the number of Republicans who believe that Republicans in Congress are good at passing laws has gone from like 90% to 70%. So I think there's just this disenchantment with Republicans, by and large, in Congress.
You're absolutely right, Dan, and there's a couple of elements here. In the American political system, we have a first-past-the-post, winner-take-all, two-party system, and whoever is the most highest-ranking elected whoever in that party is the party's leader. In particularly with President Trump, as we'll see at the Republican National Committee this week in Santa Barbara, the committees will defer to the Trump administration. So he is the leader of the party. When the president in the White House is not a Republican, the Republican National Committee chairman sort of leads the party, and we saw that with Michael Whatley in the Biden years. So you have a little bit of that, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that President Trump still has heavy influence in the primary nominating process, particularly if you've got something like in the Marjorie Taylor Greene district where there are 12 or 13 Republicans running. His endorsement is going to give whoever that is, and he hasn't yet, but his endorsement is going to give that person the edge, and they will clear the field. But then you have what happens in Congress, and the president can go out and make speeches and endorse candidates, but Congress actually has to do things. And increasingly over the last 10 or 15 years, it's been very hard for Republicans in Congress to do anything. Democrats were very unified under Speaker Pelosi. But that isn't the case for Republicans, and I think it's because Republicans are independent thinkers, and so you peel off one or two, or in this case, 4 in the House right now, and you lose a vote. You've got something like the SAVE Act on the House side, which passed in April of last year to secure elections, which because of the process in the Senate, it needs 60 votes. They're not going to get there because Democrats aren't willing to work across the aisle. So there are procedural things that purposely slow government down in the House and the Senate, which is a contrast to President Trump making executive action or going out on the campaign trail and endorsing Republicans.
Is it worth it to the Republicans to break the filibuster in the Senate to get the SAVE Act passed?
I don't believe so, because as soon as they do and Democrats retake the Senate, we are going to see California-style governance coming out of Washington, D.C., and I'm not particularly excited about that. I do think some of these institutions and long-observed rules protect our constitutional republic in a way that we can't fathom with two Democrats in control of the House and the Senate.
Yeah, but this is why I do a yeah, but are you worried that the Democrats will do it anyway? In other words, let's just say that James Carville is right. I know you saw that audio or saw that video, heard they do, whatever. James Carville, where he says that not only are the Democrats going to take 25 seats or so in the House, but they're also going to take the Senate. If that happens, yes or no? Do you believe the Democrats will eliminate the filibuster? See, I think that they will anyway, regardless of what we do.
I don't know what James Carville is smoking in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, wherever he lives now, but the Senate map does not bode well for Democrats. The House map, and particularly if Virginia Democrats do what they're planning to do, to go from 6-5 Democrat seats to 10-1, then the House is a little bit shakier. But I think the Senate Republicans will be a backstop for a lot of that. Although, and as you talked about in the polling, Democrats are very enthusiastic. Donald Trump is always on the ballot for them, and many Republicans who went out and voted for Donald Trump in 2024, as I've said before, they think they've done their jobs, and they are less enthusiastic now because they elected the guy and he's doing what he said he's going to do. And so there's a bit of that to overcome as we head into the late summer months, August and into September, when people actually start cluing in and tuning into the election.
I think the economy is showing signs of getting better. You and I agreed on that last time we spoke. So do you think there's enough time? Donald Trump, a year in office, give me your, what are your thoughts on 1 year in office? He took the oath of office a year ago today. And, tell me how you think he's done and tell me your predictions for the next 11 months, 10 months.
If I had to give him a letter grade, I'd say B+. And I think a lot of these economic issues are going to work themselves out. We're starting to see it. And I was saying on this program back in November and December, once these economic issues make their way through either executive action or Congress, it'll take 3 or 4 or 5 months. We're seeing that now, and that is where a majority of those undecideds and independents vote. I do think the Democrats are going to make big hay over Donald Trump is focused on foreign issues rather than domestic policy, and that is something Republicans are going to have to overcome.
All right, Matthew Hurtt, always great to have you on. Have fun in Santa Barbara. How long are these meetings, and why are they at such a highfalutin place?
Well, the Republican National Committee meets 2 or 3 times a year. This is like the board of directors. So in Tennessee, you've got your state party chairman, your national committee woman by the name of Beth Campbell, and a national committee man, guy by the name of Oscar Brock from outside Chattanooga. And they come together, 168 members, and they guide and govern the Republican Party. I've been coming to almost every one of these since the 2012 National Convention in Tampa, where I was an at-large delegate from Virginia.
All right. Always great to have you on, Matthew. We'll talk to you again soon. I guess we're done. All right. Behind the scenes here, we're trying to figure something out. So I am getting hit up on the super text line from a couple of different people that apparently there has been a train derailment. And it looks like in Bedford County near Wartrace. One guy's saying, and hey, let's take the phones off hold if we could, real quick. But you just got off the phone, Sam, with the sheriff's office? What I'm seeing is 4 ethanol cars have come off the rails and nearby homes are being evacuated. Again, this is according to scanner chatter. This is near Wartrace. What did you find out on the phone?
So I called the sheriff's office, got a representative on the phone, and she told me that she doesn't have any information detail-wise she could give me because literally every deputy in the county is out on the call right now. But there is a confirmed derailment in Bedford County, as you said, near Wartrace.
All right, let's see if the phones, if folks, if you're around that area, call us, let us know, 615-737-9986. Thank you very much. Boy, Jay, it's been a minute since I've given the phone number, apparently, because I just blanked out right there.
Blanked out. Yeah, it happens.
Well, men of a certain age and all. Anyway, so, yeah, or if you know what's going on, send us Debbie T says that she just drove by it. Yeah. Debbie, let us know what's going on.
Yeah, I see that.
615-737-9986, because that's, obviously we all know that those train derailments, especially if there's chemicals, can be very problematic, especially if there's rivers and that kind of a thing around. What do you got, Sam?
Got a guy on the line said he just drove right by it.
All right, hold on. Guy that just drove right by it. What do you got? What's your name? What's your name, sir?
Hello?
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I didn't know if you was talking to me. I didn't get the name. Yes, my wife works at the store, and it's right there by the derailment, and she just messaged me and said that they're evacuating people. There are 5 to 6 carts that are rode over, waiting on fire marshals to get there to get people to go ahead to start evacuating them out of the zone.
All right, so
whatever that zone is, I don't know. She said there is chemicals on board.
Okay, but there's nothing like there's no fire or anything.
No, there's no fire. To our knowledge, no, there's no fire, sir.
Okay, and can I just ask, how heavily populated is this area?
Wartrace is a small town. It's right outside of Shelbyville. It's a small podunk town, man. I mean, there's people that lives in it, but as in business-wise, there's a couple mom and pop businesses, a little square right there, right beside the train track. But the train itself, the derailment is going out of town towards Normandy. So it's like right there on the edge of War Trace.
All right. Thanks very much for your call. I very much appreciate it. All right. So.
Yeah, Dan and Debbie T., who is communicating on the text line, she has sent some photos, and you can see the cars rolled over, laying on their sides.
Yeah, boy, you sure can.
Yeah. And, War Trace, not all that far from Tullahoma as well. So that the part of the area we're referring to.
Okay. Well, you know what? If you are in that area and you want to send us some text messages, 615-737-9986, we'll continue to try to get information as well on this because he called the War Trace a podunk town. I've never been to War Trace. I've heard it's beautiful this time of year, but just stay safe. And if you want to shoot us some information, feel free. And we're going to try to compile information here as well